Every world hides a love worth breaking for. The fog knew my name before I spoke it. It curled around my boots, cold as river breath, and hushed the pines that guarded the boundary stones. Somewhere beyond them, the Forgotten Vale breathed like a living thing. Villagers said it was haunted. The archive called it an anomaly. I called it the last place my mother walked before she stopped coming home. At the last stone, the old sigil gleamed without moonlight. A circle, a thorn, a line like a blade. I touched the locket at my throat, amethyst rimmed in silver, the thorn sigil engraved on its back. The law said I shouldn't cross. The archive would call me reckless. I called it necessary. Follow the truth, my mother had told me when I still wore braids and stuffed my pockets with smooth river stones. Not the whispers of fear. Tonight, truth wore fog. I stepped over the boundary. The temperature shifted, sound softened, air turned metallic on my tongue like lightning about to strike. Runes lit on trunks no one had carved. Leaves tipped their pale undersides toward me. The veil wasn't asleep. It was waiting. You shouldn't be here, a voice said, low, even, worn into something careful. Turn around, little scholar. I spun. He stepped from the mist as if it opened for him. Not a wailing shade. This was a man the world had once known, with a face built of clean lines and a mouth that looked dangerous with vows. Hair like stormwater to his jaw. Eyes pale as a winter lake. The fog paused like it took a breath for him. I'm not little, I said, because my heart had kicked, and I needed something to hold. One corner of his mouth almost smiled, then didn't. Leave. I'm looking for someone. Everyone is. He glanced toward the stones behind me, then back, and something like concern replaced that almost smile. The living pay tithe to speak to the dead. Breath for breath. Memory for memory. You don't want that bargain. I'm not here to bargain. I'm here to witness. He moved closer without sound. Cold gathered around him. He stopped a handspan away, and the attention in his gaze made my skin feel too tight. He had catalogued 1,000 intruders. He catalogued me anyway. What do you call this place? I asked. Home, he said. Prison. He tasted another word and didn't use it. Names have teeth here. What do they call you? I tipped my head. Or should I invent one and regret everything? You wouldn't like what happens when you name a thing here. It's still polite to ask. It is, he said, eyes flicking to my locket. The wind shifted as he looked. The silver filigree caught a light that wasn't there. He reached, drawn, then flinched back with a hiss like pain. Does it burn? I asked, pulse jumping. The urge to close the distance felt like a dare. Not the metal, his voice roughened, what it carries. I covered the locket with my palm. Then we're careful. He tasted the word. Careful means something else here. His glance went past me, and the fog's edge thinned as if a thought had cut it. Turn back. Nights like this are not for the living. A voice touched my name from the trees. Eveline. Every muscle in me leaned toward it. My body knew before my mind. He caught my arm. He'd flared through both of us. Not warmth. Heat clean and sharp, like a swallow of brandy on an empty stomach. His not-solid hand was enough. Light licked along his fingers, silver brightening toward gold where he held me. My heart missed, and then found 2 beats to make up for it. Something in me tugged toward him, 2 compass needles in the same pocket. He dropped me as if it burned. Don't follow a voice, he said, voice frayed. The veil learns your ache and throws it back at you. I heard You heard the veil wanting to keep you. He swallowed like it cost him. What do they call you, scholar? Eveline Ash, I said, breath uneven. And you? He hesitated. It looked like honesty fighting habit. Cael, he said, laying the name between us like a blade. They called me Cael. The locket warmed. The thorn engraved on its back seemed to lift. Cael's gaze latched to it, hungry and hurt at once. "What is it?" I asked. "A map," he said. "A key. A broken promise from the wrong century." Mist thickened. Somewhere a bell rang, though I saw no bell. Cael stilled like a hunter. "You wanted to witness," he said. "Stay with me, Eveline Ash. If you stray, the veil will take what it wants." "What does it want?" I asked. "Whatever you fear losing most." We moved together through trees that whispered. Water carried laughter, braided with grief. Ferns murmured confidences when we brushed them. The wind tried out my name like a spell. "What is the tithe, really?" I asked as we ducked under a fallen trunk, veined with slow, cool light. "The veil keeps what is given," Cael said. "The living press goodbyes into bark and offer trinkets and breaths to hold their dead steady. It makes them kind. It keeps us gentle. The rule is older than both of our kinds." You said home and prison. I swore a vow. The words felt heavy in his mouth. "I broke the world to keep it. The world broke me back." "I don't like that math," I said. His mouth tipped, a shadow of humor. His gaze kept flicking to my locket like eyes go to fire in the cold. "Why do you carry the thorn sigil?" "It was my mother's. She studied border ifrits and the Warden cults. She came here when I was 10. My throat scraped. If she crossed, you'd know." "If she came," he said carefully, "she paid your tithe first." You are her memory." He didn't soften the words. "Daughters always pay." The ache in my chest felt like swallowing stones. "If you tell me to turn back, I'll walk away and make terrible choices." "I am not your jailer," he said softly. "The veil has enough of those." Something flickered in the trees to our right. A wrong kind of shadow, as if a shape had lost interest in holding itself together. Cael stepped in front of me so fast the mist bowed around his chest. He lifted his hand. Light slid from his palm, narrow as a knife. 3 wraiths gathered at the edge of the light. Not the storybook kind. These were hunger made into a body. Eyes like holes in a starfield. Fingers too long by a joint. "Back," Cael said, voice a weather report. The wraiths hissed. The light threw bone angles into sharp relief and made their void eyes angry. "Not this one, not mine." I shouldn't have liked the word as much as I did. One darted left, fast enough to smear. Cael flicked his fingers. The light widened to a fan. The wraith screamed without sound and unraveled into mist that tasted metallic on my tongue. "Stay behind me," he said. "I'm not a child." I know, it landed true. 2 more rushed him. Light and dark hissed. His jaw locked. The last one fled into the trees. The veil exhaled, slow and relieved. Cael lowered his hand. Light dimmed. His outline wavered, then tightened. He swayed. "You're not fine," I said. He looked at me like he hadn't been challenged in years. "Holding form costs," he said. "Fighting costs more. What do you need? Fire, blood?" I brought stubbornness and a knife I can't legally own. "You brought stubbornness," he said, almost smiling. "It's close." He pitched forward. I caught him on reflex. Heat sluiced down my spine. The thorn sigil under my locket burned until it felt like a brand. Cael made a low sound, like someone remembering a song. For a breath, he was fully solid in my arms. I didn't let go. He didn't either. Rain thickened the mist into a soft curtain. We found a hollow under a hill, roots like ribs, leaves slick, small lights threaded through the earth, the way fingers press along a pulse. Cael settled against the dirt. I crouched across from him, body tight as a coiled rope. "Tell me the vow," I said. "Tell me why this place won't let you go." "Once the veil was a door," he said, eyes on the root lights. "Between life and what waits after. People crossed with love like lanterns. No tithe, no rules. Then fear taught us to put guards on what we didn't understand. The first Warden swore to hold the door until we remembered how. You were the first. No, a corner of his mouth moved. I came when a queen decided she liked forever. I told her no. She killed me for it. The Warden caught my soul as it fell. He offered me a trade, my love for my life. I said yes. The veil is very good at making you think your sacrifice will be enough. And your love. She lived, he said. The word should have been a balm. It cut. She lived a long time, married, had children. She forgot me because forgetting was how she survived. She left an amethyst locket with a thorn sigil to mark a door she'd shut in her heart. The locket dragged at my throat. You expect me to believe. I expect you to breathe, he said, and this time he looked at me, not the locket. Belief can catch up. You think I'm her. I think you're the last echo of a promise that wanted to finish itself, he said. The veil like circles. Names, I said, give me yours. Cael, he said again, softer, as if the sound remembered him when the world did not. He watched me. He noticed too much. The way my shoulders squared in rooms that wanted me small. The way I held my coat when I thought. How my voice lifted when I said mother. The way I smelled ink, wind, a book not read to the end. Touch is a cost, he said, gaze landing on the faint light of the thorn sigil through my shirt. With you, it's a cost I want to pay. My breath faltered. Rain drummed on the leaves. The root lights pulsed like a second heartbeat. I shifted closer, because of course I did. He kept his hands on his knees like restraint, was a word he taught himself the hard way. How do we free you? I asked. You don't, he said. His jaw worked. The vow holds the door. If I step through, it swings. Everything meant to pass will pass, and everything pretending to be forever will try to come back. The queen waits for a crack. Then we open it on purpose, I said, and hold it. Let go what needs letting go, bar what wants to steal, and close it before she can slip in. You speak like warding is simple. I speak like I'm tired of fear, calling itself wisdom. The veil will want to wait to balance the door, he said. It asks for what you brought that is heaviest. I brought my mother, I whispered. He flinched. Eveline, don't try to save me from math. I know how to count. He set his fingers on the earth between us. Heat rose in the small space. I don't want you to pay for me. I came to pay for my truth, I said. Something in him broke and softened at once. The veil exhaled. My body leaned into heat like a winter animal. He reached. His hand hovered over my collarbone. Trembled, came down. Fire unfurled. Not pain. Hunger, patient, and shocked to be answered. A path I had been skirting without name. My skin woke up all at once. Pressure built low and sure. I covered his hand and pressed him harder to me. The world narrowed to that point. Eveline, he said, voice rough, tell me to stop. Don't, I said, and something between us went taut. His other hand cupped my jaw. His mouth found mine like it had done so before, and would again. Heat flooded through me. He tasted like winter water and clean smoke. I fisted my hands in his shirt and dragged him closer. He met me halfway, then all the way, then more. The lights brightened until there was nothing else. He was careful until he was. His fingers sank into my hair. The thorn burned under his palm. The rest of the world fell away, fade to black. When the rain thinned to a silver mist, my mouth felt castrunk, and my ribs ached from a heart trying to learn a new pace. Cael looked steadier, as if touch gave him edges. I felt rearranged in ways that made sense. If we do this, I whispered, we do it before dawn. Why, he asked. Because I like what light does to darkness, I said. And because we won't hold the door at noon. He brushed his knuckles over my cheek. Even the almost touch fed me. The heart is across Mirror Lake, he said. The queen waits on the island. She will sing with your mother's voice. She will lie like a priest. You've met good priests. One, he said, and let it stand. Teach me the trick that makes liars show their seams. Pretend to sleep, he said, mouth curving. They talk louder. Noted, I said. Take me to the lake. Mirror Lake held the sky with a devotion I trusted. White stone rim, quartz veins glittering faintly. A small island in the center, a shoulder breaking the surface. The water was so still it caught each blink I made. The reflections bent in one place. There, a hidden path. Pay the tithe, Cael said. One breath, one memory. Everything in me balked. His fingers brushed mine. Even that ghosted touch steadied me. Not her, he said softly. Not yet. Give the lake something else. What? The first time you loved a book. Of course he would pick that. Gratitude survives loss better than grief does. I stepped to the edge. My reflection stared back. Eyes too bright, mouth kiss dark. I breathed out the dust-moted afternoon at the archive, the slant of winter sun on a page. The way my mother's smile had felt like permission. The lake drank it. Calm held. Go, Cael said quickly. We stepped onto the hidden bridge. The mirror held us like glass holds a fingerprint. The island rose white steps, pillars carved in old sigils, a door with no seam. The heart. Cael, a voice sang. His name. It ran through me anyway, and it wore my mother's tone the way wolves sometimes wear sheep. Cael's grip tightened until I hissed. No, he said to the air. Show yourself without stolen voices. She stepped onto the top stair built out of cruelty and beauty. Hair dark as raven Bella's. Eyes that were holes in the bright. When she looked at Cael, hunger sharpened her into something young and terrible. Beloved, she purred, you kept me waiting. I refused you a century ago, he said. I refuse you now. Her gaze slid to me. You brought a toy. She's a scholar, Cael said. She's smarter than you. I am very smart, she said. I learned how to make men break themselves. Learn a new trick, I said. I walked up 2 steps. The air bent around her like heat over stone. You talk a lot. Does silence scare you? She laughed, amused and venomous. We ate grief and called it feast, she said. Shadows gathered in her palm. What will you pay me for keys, little mortal? Your fear, your father's eyes, your mother's last night. You can't have what I came to keep, I said. You can't have what saves me. And what saves you? I love like rebellion, I said. And I tell the truth even if it breaks me. Oh, she said, delighted. We could have been friends. We couldn't, I said. She stepped aside. Pay, she said. Open my door. The heart pulsed under the stone like a slow, giant beat. Cael and I stood before it. Runes brightened like captive stars. I set my palm on the thorn. Heat surged through my locket like a small animal waking. What else? I whispered. Name me, Cael said, quiet sure. Name me true so the veil knows who to loose. You told me not to name things here. I lied, he said. Forgive me. Only if it saves someone, I said. Only then, he agreed. I pressed. The runes spiraled. The island trembled. Speak, the veil said without sound. Speak the name. Pay the tithe. I looked at Cael and memorized what the light did to him. The small scar at his temple. The way what looks like silver in his eyes. The curve of a mouth built for vows and ruin. I reached for the knot I'd carried. Since 10, the last day my mother held me. The rosemary and rain on her hair. The words she said. Follow the truth, not fear. Cael, I said, not enough. The locket burned until pain went clean. Cael ardent. The name hit him like thunder, finds heat. He bowed his head, accepting. I pay, I whispered, and cut the knot I had been strangling myself with. I pay my mother back to the Vale. I let her go. The world opened. It hurt, not like a blade, like a band loosening around a bruise too long ignored. It took the flavor of that last day. It left the love. Tears came hard and didn't stop. Cael wrapped his light and hands and voice around me until my breath found shape again. Good, the Vale said. The door sighed and opened. The queen lunged, shadows blooming from her hands. Cael met her with light. They crashed like storms meeting over mountains. I kept my palm against the runes and pushed. Inside, the space looked like the inside of a ribcage made of stars. Souls drifted like embers. Some flared toward the door. Some recoiled. I whispered please until it became pulse and breath. I will feast on you slowly, the queen whispered to Cael through clenched teeth. I will make your little scholar watch. No, I said. I stepped between them before I could think. You've eaten enough. Her laugh was bright oil. Bold, she said. Stupid. I have a type. Darkness came for me. Cael spread light like a net. It caught and burned the shadow fingers. She screamed. The mirror lake stormed for the first time, waves rising without wind and slapping stone. I slammed into a pillar. Pain rang my shoulder. The locket cracked with a sound like ice breaking. A heat at my throat burned and then settled. Eveline, Cael's voice broke. He caught me. His hands were heat human now. You have a heartbeat, I said, dizzy, awestruck. He touched his throat, startled. You named me beyond the veil, he said, fierce and disbelieving at once. Do you want to live? I asked. He looked at the door where souls streamed through, at the queen snarling inside a web of light, at the shore where the world waited without knowing. He looked back at me. I want you, he said, and I want the door held. Then choose, I said, because loving someone means making choices hurt. He smiled like falling, like flight. I choose you holding the door. He turned to the heart and raised his hands. Light poured out of him like dawn spilling down mountains. It filled the ribs of the world. It pinned the queen to the pillar until her rage turned thin and cold. It reminded the door how to be a door. Go, Cael said to the souls. Go, all who were stuck by fear or lies or love that wouldn't loosen. Go and make room. They went. Some brushed me like cold kisses. One lingered, and rosemary filled my lungs. Warm hands were not on me, and were, in all the ways that mattered. I'll meet you at the border between stories, my mother said without saying. Follow the truth. I smiled through tears and let her pass. The pillars cracked and held. The door swung on a hinge that felt like bone and vow. The island groaned and steadied. Enough, I said, and looked at Cael. He looked at me, exhausted, burning. Help me, he said, not proud, not pretending. Warden. The word landed in my chest like something that had been waiting for a name. The world listed. I put my hands on the stone and felt the runes take me in. The thorn sigil lit in my bones. Magic found a path like water finds a riverbed that was always there. Say it again, I said, with my name. Eveline Ash, he said, voice breaking and tender. Warden, then softer, mine. The queen's screams thinned to useless noise. The storm calmed. The door found itself. This is the part where I step through, Cael said, voice wrecked. And lose me, I said, and save the world. Pick your shape of grief, I said, loving him until it ached. You are cruelty disguised as mercy, he said, and smiled with his mouth and eyes both. We match. So we do it like this, I said. You go, I stay. I keep the door. Find me when the wind is between seasons. He set his hands on my face. His thumbs caught tears I hadn't noticed. He kissed me hot and grateful and desperate. a kiss that knew it was a goodbye and a vow. If nobody remembers you, I will, he said into my mouth. If everyone forgets you, I won't, I said, making a promise impossible on paper and perfect in the body. Light around him shifted from cage to path. He looked at it like a cliff. He looked at me like a shore. Eveline, he said, and my name was a prayer and a home. I love you in ways I don't have new language for. Find some, I whispered. In the next world, bring them back on the wind. He went because he wasn't a coward. He went because he loved me. He stepped through the door. Light flared along the world's ribs, then settled. The veil exhaled 3 centuries of held breath. The lake smoothed. The runes cooled against my skin. The queen rattled a cage made of her own hunger and discovered it held. I stayed. The door stayed. The world rebalanced around the weight of a new warden. By the time I reached the shore, fog had risen in soft veils, more steam than ghost. I tied my cracked locket to a birch branch. Amethyst flashed like a small signal when the wind moved it. The villagers would whisper new stories. The archive would send careful letters, and then braver people. Border ifrits would behave for a week, and then remember mischief. The world went on. At the boundary stone, the thorn carved their glowed in clean daylight. I touched my throat out of habit, felt absence. Pain rose. Pain receded. It was like stepping into a cold river and staying long enough for breath to steady. My mother's laugh lived in my spine, not my ear. Wind stroked my cheek. Cael, I said, because names are for calling and keeping. No voice answered. Light ran through the trees like a smile passes along a crowd when good news reaches the back. Warmth touched my jaw like a thumb. 3 quick heartbeats found mine and matched it for a breath. That first night as warden, I walked the perimeter and listened. The hungry things had gone deeper. Kind things edged closer. A fox sat on my boot until I fed it dried meat. A girl tied an amethyst ribbon and whispered a name into birch bark. The bark held it. A man leaned his forehead to the boundary stone and cried until there was nothing left. I stood with him and said nothing. Just before dawn, the wind changed. The door tugged, not a command, a request. I went to the heart. The pillars hummed. Light pooled familiar. Too soon, Cael asked. I laughed, a small, shocked sound. You made it sound like I'd see you only on 7th sunrises and 12th moons. I made everything a tragedy, he said, stepping from the light with softer edges, because tragedy was a language I knew. He tilted his head. May I? You're a question, I said, and went into him. He was as real as hands, not as heavy as the living, warm, breath against my throat. He kissed me like he had stepped out of death and found life was a person with a pulse. I kissed him like I had a door in my spine and a fire in my ribs. How? I asked when we came up for air. The door remembers what the warden tells it, he said. You told it to make room for me sometimes. It listens to me. It always has, he said. Pride and tenderness moved through his voice. We forgot. Forgetting is how we survived. I won't, I said. I knew the scar of my memory's breakage and the strength of its healing. He brushed his knuckles over the faint mark the thorn had left beneath my skin. You pay, and somehow aren't poorer. I traded weight for empty hands, I said. Now I can hold things. Hold me, he said softly. I did. We had until dawn. We took every breath of it. Days found a rhythm. Names released, predators discouraged, tithe coaxed from stubborn mouths. The lake's color watched the way a physician watches pulse. Nights brought him when the wind was kind. Sometimes we only stood shoulder to shoulder and listened. Sometimes we kissed like we had been starving our whole lives. Sometimes we lay under roots and traded small truths. He told me he had loved pears and had forgotten the exact give of them against teeth. He wanted joy now, not stillness. The worst part of being bound hadn't been lack of touch. It had been lack of change. I told him rivers had scared me since I was 9, and that I stood at Mirror Lake each morning, until my fear turned into a story I could tell without shaking. We did not say always. We did not say forever. We said now. We said again. We said, as long as the wind brings you, as long as the door asks. When people asked me if love was worth it, I told them this. Love is what you carry through doors you can't see until you're standing inside them. Love is the rule you break that breaks the world in the right way. Love is the weight that becomes hands, and the hands that let go on purpose. One evening, a girl with a brave mouth and shaking hands came with an amethyst ribbon. I'm not ready to let go, she said, angry that she wasn't different from everyone else. You don't have to be ready, I said. You have to be willing. What if it hurts? It will, I said. First like a truth you've avoided, then like a bruise you press to check if it's still there. One day you'll touch it and feel only pressure. That day will be greener than the ones before. You sound like a holy woman, she said, half mocking. I sound like a warden who misses her mother and kisses a man made of wind, I said. Both can be true. She laughed and tied the ribbon and spoke a name. The birch shivered like a person recognizing love. I walked back into the vale. Light filtered through leaves like prayer. The wind tasted faintly of pears. Under the hill, root lights brightened. A hand, warm as breath, touched the back of my neck. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. He didn't ask if I was sure. I didn't ask when he would leave. We met in the middle and made the moment big enough to live in. Some loves don't end. They change the shape of the world, and if the world forgets them, the wind doesn't. Sometimes I dream the heart of the vale, my mother's hand in one of mine and Cael's in the other. Our pulses 3 notes that make a song you can walk by. In the morning, I draw the thorn sigil in the window's fog and watch it fade. The door will never be easy. Love will never be safe. Memory will never be tidy. When the wind comes off the lake and whispers my name, I whisper back, I am here. I am holding it. I am yours.